Thank you for joining us today. My name is Gail Watson, President and CEO of Women Speakers Association, the go-to place for innovative leaders, change agents, and women with a message to connect, collaborate, and grow her visibility worldwide in order to fulfill her mission. And as part of helping her to do this, we are very excited to introduce you to Voices of the 21st Century, a book featuring a collection of female voices rising up to educate, guide, and inspire. And here with us today is our featured author, Dr. Lillian Diaz Imbelli. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Excited to speak with you today because I love what you share in this book. I mean, your story is so current and it really connects with today's conversation, right? And we are talking about finding your own story, right? Sharing your own story. So let's first talk about what made you feel that this was the right time to share this story?
I'm sorry. First of all, speaking with you, I had started, I guess, my membership in Women Speakers Association and love what you had to offer, so all the resources. When the opportunity came to contribute to this collection, I found that interesting. Speaking with you, I was absolutely convinced that this was a great outlet for me, from the title, Voices, to the contribution that I made. And having the opportunity, I feel very strongly about the importance of collaboration, hearing other voices, listening to other voices and perspectives, whether we agree or not. I just think we're all enriched by conversation and dialogue. So I love that. I love the fact that, I can contribute something, but still maintain my own unique voice. And that was a very special part of, this invitation that I'm thrilled that I took up.
Awesome. And I'm glad you did, because as I mentioned, you really talk about something that we can all relate to right now, because we hear about it every single day. So why don't you give us some insight and, to our listeners right now to what your story shares?
Yeah, and Gail, when you mentioned that this is very sort of contemporaneous, if you will, that this is a conversation, the telling, sort of thinking we know something about other people and their narrative and their lives and their, either family history and then claiming it as if it belongs to us. I feel very strongly that our stories are ours to tell. And the other reason for this, I didn't mention this earlier, but what drew me to my research, and I found that often dialogue, when we disagree, is we speak at each other. So when you claim your narrative, whether you agree with me or not, you can't argue, it's my story. That's all I'm saying. I am not professing to speak for other people. I am not the voice for everybody who may identify with me, which is a white Latina woman, mother, daughter, wife, all those things that make up who I am. But I do speak for me. And I think it is very important to offer those opportunities for others to be able to say, this is my story, that's all it is. And I take ownership of it, and I claim it as mine, and it's what I can offer to the dialogue, So having that opportunity was wonderful.
That's terrific. So share with us how this is impacting your life today.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, commending you on the process. So I've always been a writer, and certainly I have a doctorate published. But and the contrast between that, which is a very isolating thing. I happened to work with a wonderful cohort of 5 other people that were also earning their doctorates, and we supported one another. But the process itself is a very solitary thing. What I loved about the Voices opportunity is that you've offered just insight, guidance, support that helps us not only, be able to share our own story, but do it in that community of like-minded people. And I think it's been wonderful. So it's allowed me to tell sort of, begin my narrative from the very, very beginning. So my story is something that happened to me when I was 6 years old. It has resonated with me, really led me to the research that I ultimately did. So I was able to do that. And I thought, starting from the beginning of something that was just an experience that any child has. So when you talk about, I do worry about what and how what is happening to children on the southern border is going to affect them for the rest of their lives. This is a pretty innocent kind of experience, but had a profound impact on me. And I've loved to be able to share that. And the first time I shared it, I didn't realize the ripple effect that it would have. So, it was, when you read it, the color purple comes into play. Whenever I speak now, I wear a purple dress, and that was just an accident. I happened to have it on when I shared the story that one will read in the collection. And it is a majestic color of power, and it makes me connect to my traditions and my history. So it's funny, again, one seemingly not insignificant, because I think it's a powerful story, but one small experience, in the span of life can have a recurring consistent sort of influence on you for the rest of your life.
Amazing. And just when you were bringing up children, right now, the southern border, how this experience, how it would transcend into their, 30, 40, 50 years from now, how it's going to show up. That's a voice we haven't heard yet. And so I want to really applaud you for actually even lending voice to them for that, to give that insight.
And again, it wasn't intentional, so it's a very organic thing. And that's the point of story. When you claim your own story, it's not contrived. It's not, saying that I speak for everyone, but it is, being able to speak for yourself and hopefully, connecting and resonating with other people.
Is there, when you were sharing the story, when you were writing it, what's that one big takeaway that you would want a reader to take away from your story?
That I think we have to be open to listening to the story of others. And that's, again, when they talk about people without a voice. So people who don't have platforms like Voices Too, or even the opportunity to sit at a table and share those experiences, your personal experiences with others. We have to encourage that. But we also have to be open to listening, because again, the worst thing you could do is give somebody the opportunity to speak and then not really give it any credence, or to say, well, that's not true for everybody. And I think, again, that storytelling has to be non-threatening. So if I'm telling you my story, that's all I'm doing. I'm not taking a political stance, although to some extent you are, but that it is really a non-threatening way to initiate dialogue.
I love that.
So that's important. We need to listen, and we need to advocate for ourselves.
Absolutely. So if I'm in the audience right now and I'm listening to your words, and I'm intrigued by them, who should be reading your story?
Well, initially, and I mentioned that I earned my doctorate at 56. And what it did was build on a history of, I worked with media literacy. I was an English teacher and taught media literacy. Again, how do you respond when you look at, the wider culture with, media in all its forms, and you don't really see your voice represented? So how do you gain the confidence to say, you're not speaking for me, this is my story? So, and that's a really important part of it. And I took that, and when I did my research, I started, I wanted to know the stories of young women in independent schools that that I identified with. I happen to be, again, a Latina. It's the smallest population in independent schools. And again, they talk about often feeling that they deserve to be in these communities. They earned their way in, but nobody really was listening to their experience. So my research explored that. I interviewed young women about their experience in these communities, and again, tried to get them to offer insight from their perspective to others. So one, you don't feel like you're alone, and encouraging others to tell that story. So for me, all of it has built up, and that's why I talk about, I often use the metaphor of the Russian nesting dolls. There were so many of, every experience we've had, becomes part of who we are. And that's it. It's just, how many of those do you want to know about? But encouraging people to reclaim their voice, so that their experience is richer, ultimately.
I love that. And I love that you are reminding us about all of our different layers, and that when we meet a person, that they're not just what we see or how they've been painted to us, but that there's many more other layers that go down to their heart. So I just want to really thank you for putting out that challenge and reminding us. Really, that's what I get, is just this, this reminder that we are all people, and we need to we all connect. So
yeah, and again, just very quickly, I never want to take full credit for that, because it was when I discovered the work of Gloria Anzaldúa, who is a Mexican Chicana educator, that, in her own identity journey, discovered what they, it's building on hybrid identity, those multifaceted components of your identity. Our culture tends to look at us as binary creatures. We're either this or we're that, and that's part of the issue.
That's interesting. So Lillian, this is fascinating. I think everybody needs to read your story, because your story isn't really directed to one. It will affect many. It is definitely a global voice. I would love to see you on many stages out there sharing this message, because it's what we need today. Very, very important. So tell me how I would, if I want to get a copy of your story and maybe an autograph version of it, how can I reach out to you and get this book from you?
I will be publishing my blog and a lot of my writing in the month of September. It's my birthday month, so I figured that's my great target. I'm turning 64, and in the process also of creating a course, an online course, the Sage Project, where I work with others again to reclaim their voice, to explore their identity development in connection to their leadership journey as well. So I will have a website at Soy Mi Cuento, SOYMICUENTO at wordpress.com. So Soy Mi Cuento blog at wordpress.com, or my actual email is, again, soymicuento at gmail.com.
Okay.
Okay, so I would be, that there'll be a link there.
Perfect. Because I think your story is amazing. It's actually the perfect gift to pass along to another. So when you're going to get a book from Lillian, pick up 2 or 3 and pass them along as gifts, because this is a message for all of us. This is a message for humanity. This is a message to serve everyone in terms of helping us to know that our story is our own, and it's a very powerful one. And just because it's a little bit different than yours.
Well, clearly you know that. I mean, this is the second volume of Voices too. So it is wonderful to, and so many of the stories in the volume are of people who could have sat down and considered themselves victims and really have emerged victorious because of their experiences, and each of them are unique. So I thank you for the platform.
Oh, well, thank you. No, I mean, yes, your story is surrounded by many that challenge the status quo, put questions into our mind, but also give the gift. and here's the solution, or here's, so I love all of you. Anyway, Lillian, you are well read, you are well educated, you're well spoken, you are amazing, and with all the research you've done, you are jam packed with wisdom. I know it. So leave us with one piece, your one words of wisdom that you would like to leave with us.
Probably just underscoring, tell your story and listen to the stories of others, because we have so much to learn, and I think that's how we grow.
Simple.
Yes, I tried. Simple for a very complex, and challenging, I think, goal is to be open to stories. But again, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be part of this, and I've learned so much in the last few weeks. Summer being what it is, I wasn't able to make everything live, but even on replay, it's a wealth of information. Count me in next year too, or whenever.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Lillian. Great to have you on the show. And I want to thank our listeners for joining in. Again, I encourage you to get connected to Lillian. You'll find all her contact information in the book as well, or you can contact her directly from the website that she gave you. So I invite you back again to listen to another amazing woman share her powerful stories. And thank you for joining us, and we will see you again soon.
Thanks so much again. Very, very appreciative.